You keep making the same promise to yourself. I'll rest after this, after the deadline, after the trip, after the busy week, after the stress settles, after you catch up, after you prove you can still handle it. And every time you say it, you believe it, because you're not trying to destroy yourself. You're trying to survive your life with dignity. But the after never really arrives, does it? It gets replaced. The finish line moves. Something else comes up. Someone needs you. Your inbox fills again. Your body keeps going. Not because it's fine, but because it learned how to function while running on fumes. And then, one day, you look up and realize something that feels almost offensive. You're tired. In a way, rest doesn't fix anymore. You take a day off and it barely touches it. You sleep and still wake up heavy. You slow down and your mind starts buzzing, like stillness is dangerous. You do the healthy things and your body responds with the same quiet message. Not enough. So let me ask you the question that changes the entire meaning of what you've been living. What if your problem isn't that you don't rest? What if your problem is that you keep missing the narrow window where rest actually repairs you? Because recovery isn't just time off. Recovery is timing. And if you keep pushing until your body is already past the point where it can rebound easily, you don't just lose energy. You lose the recovery window itself. That's why it feels like you're doing everything right and still not returning. You're trying to refill a system that's still leaking, still bracing, still spending, still in output mode while you call it rest. And your body is tired of pretending that counts. This episode is about the window you keep missing and why it's been slipping away so quietly that you thought it was your fault. It isn't. It's rhythm. And your body has been begging you to respect it. You know the feeling when you've pushed just a little too long. You're still functioning, but your insides feel thin. Your patience shortens. Your appetite gets weird. Your sleep starts doing that thing where you're exhausted but wired. Like your nervous system forgot how to let go. Your workouts stop feeling energizing and start feeling like punishment. Your emotions become louder or flatter, depending on your style of survival. Then you finally get a chance to rest, and it doesn't land. You lie down, and your mind keeps sprinting. You sit in silence and feel uneasy, like you should be doing something. You try to relax, and your body stays clenched, as if it doesn't trust the permission you just gave it. You start scrolling, snacking, numbing, because rest without downshifting feels like torture. You tell yourself you're failing at self-care. You tell yourself you're broken. You tell yourself something must be wrong with your body. But what's happening is simpler and more brutal than that. You didn't just get tired. You got overextended. And when you're overextended, your system doesn't recover on demand. It takes longer to settle. It takes more safety to soften. It takes more consistency to repair. What used to bounce back overnight now needs a series of quiet days that you don't feel you're allowed to take. So you keep moving, not because you want to, but because stopping feels like losing, and the world doesn't make losing feel safe. That's what makes this pattern so painful. It isn't only physical, it's emotional. It's the shame of needing more than you used to need. It's the fear that if you slow down, you'll fall behind. It's the quiet grief of realizing your body has changed its terms, and you don't know how to negotiate with it without giving up your life. This is why missing the recovery window feels personal. It touches your identity. It makes you feel like you're not who you used to be. But your body isn't trying to take your life from you. It's trying to stop paying for your life with your future. Here's what most people don't understand until they're deep in it. There are different kinds of tired. There's tired that comes from effort and is restored by sleep. And then there's tired that comes from living in constant output, constant responsiveness, constant bracing. That second tired isn't solved by one nap because it isn't a sleep debt. It's a rhythm debt. And rhythm debt is why you can take time off and still feel depleted, because your body might be resting while your nervous system is still in expansion mode, still scanning, still preparing, still proving, still on guard. This is where energy and seasonal cycles becomes more than a metaphor. It becomes a map for why your body keeps not bouncing back. Living systems were never built to output forever. They expand and contract. They exert and repair. They bloom and go dormant. They don't do this because they're weak. They do this because it's how life stays alive. Your body is a living system. So is your immune system. So is your mind. So is your nervous system. And when you ignore contraction seasons long enough, the body doesn't just get tired. It loses trust. It stops offering you clean, early signals because you kept overriding them. So it starts speaking louder. That's what people call sudden burnout, mysterious fatigue, random anxiety. My body betrayed me. But betrayal isn't what it is. It's the cost of living like it's always harvest season. If you can only respect rest when you're already collapsing, you will always feel like your recovery window is missing because you keep arriving at rest too late, asking repair from a system that has already moved into emergency conservation. And emergency conservation doesn't feel like peace. It feels like numbness. It feels like heaviness. It feels like you're dragging yourself through days that used to feel manageable. So the goal isn't to become someone who rests more as a moral achievement. The goal is to become someone who catches the window earlier, while your body is still able to receive repair, not as rescue. Humans learned seasonal rhythm long before anyone called it wellness. Early agricultural calendars weren't lifestyle choices. They were survival intelligence. People understood that you can't harvest without leaving the land fallow, that soil needs recovery, or it stops giving life. Rest wasn't a reward. It was the condition for future yield. Taoist philosophy carried this in another language, mapping life as movement between yin and yang, not as personalities, but as forces. There's outward motion and inward motion, heat and cool, action and restoration. The wisdom wasn't staying in one pole. The wisdom was recognizing which pole is present and moving with it, so you don't break yourself fighting reality. And in many indigenous knowledge systems, seasonal awareness wasn't abstract. It shaped food, labor, ceremony, migration, community roles, and pacing. Not because nature is poetic, but because nature is patterned. Those patterns were respected because ignoring them cost lives. Now look at modern life. We're surrounded by artificial summer, bright screens at midnight, constant notifications, endless productivity worship, a culture that calls exhaustion ambition and calls rest laziness, a world that treats contraction like a flaw. So what happens? Your body tries to create winter inside a system that won't stop producing summer. It downshifts. It demands naps you don't have time for. It makes your muscles heavy. It shortens your fuse. It takes away motivation. It changes your appetite. It disrupts your sleep. It does whatever it has to do to force contraction. Because contraction is where repair happens. You can see this everywhere, not as theory, but as lived consequence. You see it in overtraining. The athlete who keeps adding intensity because they're addicted to progress until their tendon inflames, their sleep fragments, their performance drops, and their body stops responding to the same workouts. People call it lack of discipline. It's the body demanding a season of repair that was skipped for too long. Recovery windows get smaller when they're ignored. Eventually, the body doesn't offer you gentle warnings. It gives you a forced break. You see it in high-pressure careers. The worker who stays on for years. Late emails. Constant urgency. Being the reliable one. Until the nervous system starts living in bracing. Then a weekend doesn't restore them. Even a vacation doesn't land because they can't come down fast enough to feel it. They return from rest still tired, and they think they did it wrong. But their system isn't in rest mode. It's in chronic expansion with a body begging for winter. You see it in caregiving and parenting too, where recovery isn't just about sleep. It's about nervous system permission. The person who is always responsible, always needed, always anticipating someone else's needs, learns to stay mobilized as a default. Even when the house is quiet, their body stays vigilant. Their recovery window becomes microscopic because they never truly downshift. They're physically sitting, but internally, they're still on duty. And you see it after illness or a stressful season. Someone gets sick, recovers enough to function, and then immediately goes back to full output because life doesn't pause. Their body doesn't fully rebuild, so they keep catching everything, keep feeling run down, keep living in low-grade depletion. They think their health is fragile. Often, it's simply under-repaired. Energy and seasonal cycles explains the pattern without insulting you. You don't just need rest. You need to honor contraction early enough that it actually restores you. That's the recovery window. And the reason you keep missing it is because you were trained to notice your body only when it's already screaming. So how do you stop missing it without turning your life into a monastery? Without disappearing from your responsibilities? Without making rest another thing you fail at? It begins with learning to recognize your early signals as sacred, not inconvenient. The recovery window almost always announces itself quietly. It's the first yawn you ignore. The first moment you feel foggy and tell yourself coffee will fix it. The first body ache you override. The first inner resistance that says, not today. And you answer, yes, today. Early signals are the door. Late signals are the wall. The next move is to build micro-contraction into your day, not because it's cute, but because it keeps your system from tipping into emergency mode. Contraction can be 5 minutes of stillness before your phone, a slower walk after a heavy task, a quiet meal without stimulation, a few deep exhales while your shoulders drop. It sounds small, but small contractions keep the body from needing catastrophic shutdown. You also have to stop calling numbing rest. Scrolling in a clenched body isn't recovery. It's dissociation with a screen. Overeating when you're overstimulated isn't nourishment. It's a sedative. Sometimes your body chooses these because it's desperate for downshift, but downshift becomes real when it includes safety cues: warmth, light, hydration, consistent meals, gentle movement, quiet, and boundaries around overstimulation. This is where boundaries become biological. If your evenings are full of demand, your recovery window shrinks. If your phone is your last and first relationship every day, your recovery window shrinks. If your schedule has no white space, your recovery window shrinks. Your body can't repair inside constant friction. So you choose one place to reduce friction, not perfectly, not dramatically, just enough that your system begins trusting the rhythm again. And then comes the part that changes everything. You stop waiting for collapse to justify care. You practice resting while you're still okay. That will feel wrong at first, because your nervous system has learned that rest must be earned through suffering. But that belief is exactly what keeps you missing the window. Rest becomes repair when it's preventative, not punitive. The invitation is not to become fragile. It's to become accurate, because accuracy is what keeps a living system alive. Here's what the shift feels like when it starts working. Before, you lived in a cycle of overextension and emergency recovery. You'd push until you crashed. Rest just enough to stand up again, then push again. Your energy never truly rebuilt. It only reset to a lower baseline. Your body started feeling like a problem. Your mind started fearing the next crash before it even arrived. You lived with a quiet dread of your own limits. After, your life begins to feel more rhythmic. Not perfect, not effortless, but more honest. You notice the early window and you honor it. You downshift sooner, so you don't have to disappear later. You start waking up with more steadiness, because you didn't spend your nights in overstimulation. You feel your patience return, because your nervous system isn't constantly clenched. You feel trust rebuild, because you stop betraying your body to keep up appearances. Your self-respect changes too. You stop using exhaustion as proof of worth. You stop treating recovery as a luxury. You start living like someone who plans for repair the way you plan for work, because you finally understand your health isn't what you do after life happens. Your health is what makes life possible. And that internal shift is the real transformation. Not that you become a different person overnight, but that you become someone who catches the window early enough to stay whole. If you look at the last 2 weeks, where did your body first whisper for contraction? Sleepiness, irritability, fog, cravings, soreness, social fatigue, And what one small rhythm change could you make this week to honor the recovery window before your system has to force it through collapse? Your body doesn't punish you with exhaustion. It corrects your rhythm when you keep skipping repair, because a life that never contracts doesn't stay powerful. It just stays expensive. If this episode gave you language for what you've been living, share in the comments what your earliest recovery window signal is and what you're ready to stop overriding. Subscribe if you want more episodes that decode these patterns with grounded clarity, so you can build a life that expands without demanding that your body break first.